What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rage, and I'm back on the channel bringing some more sync content your way. Now today I'm actually going to be doing a fan favourite gun. We're going to be having a look over my favourite build for this. Now there are a number of ways to build this gun, so if you are interested in being able to see what other methods I have in place for this, then make sure to drop a comment in this comment section down below letting me know that you're interested. But today we're going to be having a look over more of a kind of general taking on everything that kind of comes your way. Now you can specialise into single target damage, you can specialise into AoE damage, so to this one we're just going to be doing a more general that should be able to pretty much tackle everything, run of the mill, everything, and that's going to be for the Deadly Tortoise Guntech. Now the Deadly Tortoise is a very interesting type of Guntech because not only is it a blue rarity, which means it's readily available, it's easy to be able to get hold of, whether you're going through the automat or whether you're just trying to farm through being able to go through some of the master ops and all that kind of thing. It's, for being a blue rarity, this is insanely strong in terms of a Guntech as to what it can actually do, and if you do build it under the right conditions, this can absolutely melt things and be able to take you into endgame content. Now before we go any further into this, and obviously before we start doing the dive into this, make sure that if you do enjoy this type of content, you want to see more from ourselves when it comes to syncs, then make sure to drop that like and subscribe so you can find your way back to the channel, ready for more guides just like this. But with all that said and done, what are we waiting for? Let's get right into the guide. Alright then, so if I press my tab button, we can start opening up everything. We can explain all the reasons and all the choices behind this. Now this one's going to be absolutely amazing for being able to melt down primes. This is going to be really good for being able to take down mobs of enemies so you aren't overrun, but it's going to have a little bit towards extra damage so that we can still use this against tyrants. So we'll explain all the mod choices in a second. We'll explain the runner and we'll also explain the nano, but the first thing we should probably have a look at is how the Guntech kind of works and what makes the Deadly Tortoise so good. So if we press the F button on this, we can have a quick look as to what the gun stats do say. Now the Guntech is very vague as to what it currently says it does, because all it says is significantly increases damage while reducing recoil, but also slows down your movement while you're firing. Now the extra stats on this do kind of come into it. The range damage is just a standard, you do get 50% range damage, but the increased attack strength at low health is kind of an interesting one, because it does say at tier 5 that you do get an extra 100%. Now this isn't 100% flat, this doesn't like increase your damage to insane kind of amounts. What it actually does is closer to the base damage of what the original gun would have been doing. It kind of works out to be around about that kind of level. Now, I do have the gun stats, I do have testing on this. So, for example, the higher power, which this is based off, as standard against PvE kind of threats, will do 9 damage to normal, so just a normal kind of like body hit. It will do 29 points of damage to a weak point, and it will do 44 points of damage to a weak point that is also a critical shot. Now, if we compare this gold high power to something like a white tortoise, we are coming at 28 damage at normal, so you can already see just before we increase the rarity, it does insane amounts of damage compared to original. We also get 84 points to a weak point and 127 to a weak point crit. Now the best one to really kind of compare this to is a gold high power to a gold tortoise, so we can get an idea as to how much of a percentage this is kind of boosting. So we're going from 9 points to a body shot to 37 with a gold tortoise, 112 weak point with the gold tortoise, and 168 weak point crit. What this means is that these kind of do have some fluctuating percentages, but it kind of works out to be around about 300% across the board, with the body shots being 311, weak point being 286, and weak point crit is 282. Now when you get down to low HP though, because I do also have the stats on this, it works out to, even though it says increased attack strength at low health is 100%, so if you do have a fully maxed out Deadly Tortoise, it kind of only works out that you get an extra 16% increase in damage. So the kind of threshold you need to hit for this to be able to start getting that extra damage is when you're at 25% HP or lower. So it's not really going to come into it too often. It's kind of like that threshold once you if you get really low health, you'll actually have a little bit of auto health regen, so that you then get back up to a certain threshold. Any time in that, so up to 25% HP, you will be able to get that extra firing damage. But like I said, just being able to go into the VR range, just to be able to test it out with everything that currently happens in the build, it worked out to be around about 16% increase on the damage numbers, and not the 100%. So don't get misled into this. Don't keep that in mind. It is pretty much kind of a low increase in damage, and it's not reliable that you stay in that low damage range so that you can get the most out of this. Now, of course, it makes most sense to go all the way around when it comes to the blue circle. If you do manage to get that, you get an extra increase to your range damage, your ammo capacity, and your reload speed, all of which are very, very useful stats because it's just increased damage, increased ammo so that you have a chance of being able to refill this or just be able to have some sustained fire for longer, and then just extra reload speed, which is going to help out with the Codex, which we'll be discussing very shortly. So being able to have a 300% increase to your damage output is an insane gun tech. We don't really see anything that comes close to that unless we start duplicating some of the legendary gun techs that are going to have extra like massive increases to their range damage. So overall, we're off to a great start with this gun tech. It's pretty crazy as to how much damage this does, and you can kind of see as to why people do tend to gravitate towards what the Deadly Tortoise is offering. So what can we do to be able to increase this? What can we do with this when it comes to a build? Well, let's have a look into the runner first, and this one I just kind of recommend that the only one really you should be using this with, or at least the top tier pick, is going to be Park. The reason why is because every single bit of his kit is going to cater towards making the Deadly Tortoise so much more effective, because we have Steady Hand, which is going to work in tandem with what the gun already does in being able to reduce recoil. So we're going to be able to reduce recoil even further with Park, meaning that we can actually get it. So if you do prefer aiming over the shoulder like I do, you can actually get this pinpoint accurate, meaning that we never have to ever aim down the sight to be able to get that laser beam accuracy. It just becomes so steady that we can just consistently hit that weak point over and over and over again, and then it's just down to us to be able to make sure we land those shots. On top of that, we also have Bloody Bullets, which is where the weak point kind of comes in. So we generate ammo from weak point kills and also chain bomb kills, and chain bomb is going to be his skill, which is a bomb that chain strikes between multiple enemies, dealing shock affliction. And this is a really good effective skill for being able to hit around walls, to be able to hit multiple enemies all at the same time. Shock affliction is really nice in case you do go for like an affliction side package. Overall, everything that Park has just really kind of caters towards this build, and I highly recommend that you do pick up Park. And all you can do for that is just 600 shillings, and you can buy him straight from the shop, and you can get shillings fairly easy in this game, so it's overall a great shout to be able to pick him up as soon as possible. Now, of course, you can use other runners if you do want to. Dr. Stone is always going to be a good shout in pretty much every single bit of game mode, and also Glory for being able to have that extra weak point damage, but once again, these kits do not really cater as much towards the Deadly Tortoise as what Park can bring to the table. So just keep that in mind, that Park is literally S tier when it comes to this, and then probably B, maybe A tier as for synergy for this gun is going to be Dr. Stone and Glory, so just keep that in mind. So in terms of like nanos, now there are a couple of choices you can get away with, and depending on what you're trying to achieve, but because of the mod package that we're bringing in, I recommend the Crusher. The Crusher is just absolutely amazing for being able to apply stun, and stun packages in this game are insanely good. I highly recommend being able to grab the Crusher to help you out with being able to get that stun applied so that it can't move. It makes the weak points available. It kind of caters towards everything that this build is trying to do, but you can alternatively go for the suppressor. Now the suppressor, the reason why the suppressor works really nicely is that when it's on your arm, you're able to ADS faster, but also reduce that crosshair spread. We now have a third way of being able to reduce that over the shoulder kind of look when it comes to crosshair, meaning that we can get more bullets put on target faster. And then what you can do is you can use the suppressor on your arm to be able to get the recoil down, and then once it's down to a certain aspect, you can then send the suppressor out, and then you'll be able to keep it up with Park's ability as well as the Deadly Tortoise working in tandem. The last thing that the suppressor also does have is that you have a way of being able to generate a shock ball, and once the shock ball is out, and if you do upgrade it to the second rank, that means that you do have unlimited ammo for the duration while that shock ball is out, and that can really help you out to being able to restock some ammo back into the gun, but it also helps you out with the amount of damage and the amount of DPS you have, meaning that we don't have to worry too much about being able to reload. So we've covered the Guntech, we've covered the runner, we've covered the nano, so what else can we have a look at? Well, this is where the mod ports come in, and what we're doing with this is we're going to mix in a stun build as well as being able to increase the amount of damage we're going to be doing to help us out with that tyrant side of things. So the first port that we do go for is going to be stun and gun. Now you do notice that I do have the yellow variant because this still works just fine, but of course if you do have the red variant, you definitely can go in for those, and you can just mix and match it as you want. But the yellow version of stun and gun gives us one hit kills on stun nanos with low health. This is going to work really, really nicely with being able to pair it with our mod 3, which is going to help us being able to generate those stuns, and it also helps us out with the crusher side of things. When enemies nanos get down to a certain health threshold, so in yellow this is 35, in red this is going to be 40, then they instantly get demolished with any point of damage. This means that if we do land a weak point, this also does help us out with in combination with Park, because it does actually refill our magazine. So if we keep peppering that same weak point over and over again, applying stun, We then get them down to 35 or 40% health. We then instantly kill them, but because the last bullet to hit was a weak point kill, therefore we're refilling straight back into park. This means that we can reliably refill our magazine off prime nanos as well as normal nanos, which is really, really nice, and I highly recommend stun and gun is the best way to be able to go for. In terms of mod 2 though, we do have something to help us increase the amount of damage we'll be doing while we're firing, and that's going to be the old 1-2, where we deal additional damage with our primary weapon after getting a critical hit. Now this does increase our gun damage by 20%, which is quite substantial, considering we're going to be aiming to hold down the trigger. We're never really going to be letting up unless we're going into like another area or repositioning. Eventually we'll be hitting a critical hit with this build, so therefore we're just going to eventually get that 20% just from being able to do what we're doing, and it just gives us a nice increase in our DPS. Now in terms of like other mods, there's not really many that I would suggest for this type of build. Of course you can go for something like Parting Gift to really kind of help you out, but ideally the old 1-2 is going to be the one for being able to start taking on tyrants. This is going to be your main general kind of overview, and it's just going to really help you out. Gives you that nice consistency so that you can refill the mag when you need it. Now in mod 3, this is where we're going to have the nice synergy with mod 1, and this is going to be weak point stun. I absolutely love this mod because this not only puts enemies stuck in place, meaning that you can consistently keep hitting that weak point over and over again, so it makes aiming so much more easy, but it also gives us extra stun damage when we apply it, and it also helps us be able to get the stun and gun so that we can then instantly delete them. So with weak point stun, you can also get the red version of this, so feel free if you do manage to get high enough that you can use that, but the yellow bit is absolutely fine. And the idea is that, once again, aim for the head or aim for the weak point, stun them. Once they're stunned, you're then making sure that they cannot move. You're going to be doing even more weak point, like guaranteed weak point damage from that, and then once you get them down low enough with stun and gun, because you're going to be hitting the weak point, Park is then going to refresh and refill the magazine, so you can carry this on over and over again. Now this does actually carry on into our mod 4, and that's why the mod of choice for this one is going to be Prime Stunner. Now you can go for other things in here. Obviously there is a red version of Prime Stunner as well, so feel free to be able to pick that up if you can, but you can also go for something like Skill Thrill, which is going to really help you out with increasing the amount of damage you're going to be doing by activating your skill. So there are a couple of really good choices that you can go for this, but the reason why I've gone for Prime Stunner is because we're already applying stun, so therefore we're using that, so once we kill that enemy we're spreading it out to other nanos, meaning that we can carry on the rest of this process, and then we can consistently keep refilling our magazine. If we're able to do that, that means there's never going to be a letdown when it comes to DPS. Now when it comes to Prime Stunner obviously is going to help us out with the mobbing side of things, so if you are struggling a little bit more when it comes to tyrants rather than being able to take down mobs, then I would recommend swapping over to Skill Thrill instead, and then you'll get a bigger DPS output when it comes to taking those down, because obviously they cannot be stunned. So that wraps up in terms of the mod package. So the last thing for us to talk about is the Codex. What are the main things that we should really be looking into and picking up from here? Well, obviously anything that increases health and anything that increases weak point damage and anything that increases armor is going to be an absolute given for this. Being able to get armor damage is also really, really nice as well. We also want to be able to grab Whiplash so that we can increase our reload speed. So just in case we don't, like for example against tyrants, we're not necessarily going to be consistently refilling our magazine from there. So we can use Whiplash so we can offset the amount of downtime we're going to have with that gun. We can also grab things like Opportunist 2, which is really nice. Being able to grab Critical Hit 1 is also really, really good. And then also work your way down to Mid-Range Master, which is going to, at rank 2, be able to give us 100% extra LMG damage, which once again, kind of how it works with when you get to that low HP, even though it says it increases your attack by 100%, it's not going to work out like flat 100%, but by the time you've gone through the damage calculations, it's still a massive damage increase right there. And then obviously as you scroll a little bit down, you can once again head for Critical Hit and be able to grab extra HP, and then obviously you can pick up anything else that's going to increase your DPS. In terms of the companion side of things though, this is once again, it depends on which type of nano you do plan on taking in, which one fits your playstyle, but obviously being able to grab extra HP is really going to help you out, and being able to grab the one so that it can revive you just in case the worst does happen is definitely something that you should consider. But there you go, that pretty much wraps it up on the build. Let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think of this one? How do you currently run your Deadly Tortoise build? And once again, I do have a more AoE kind of centric, a bit more focused build to be able to do for this one. So if you're also interested in seeing what I can come up with for that side of things, let me know in the comment section down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thank you to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. It really does help the channel out. And that just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.